Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Manish Shrestha, working as Assistant Professor at Haryana School of Business, GJ University of Science and Technology, Hisar. Today, we are going to discuss about the topic Foundations of Compensation Management. Before starting the discussion, let's have a look at the contents. The discussion will start with the introduction, followed by theories of compensation management, and it ends with the summary. By the end of this module, students will be able to understand the concept of compensation management and identify different theories of compensation. An individual's basic needs, that is food, clothing, education, housing, medical care and transportation, are met through what he receives as compensation from his workplace. This compensation is affected and also affects a lot many things. It is affected by economy of a specific geographical area, the psychology of the management and trade unions, the expectations of the society, the industry trends and the technological state. Economic theories. The dictionary meaning of compensation is simply reward or reimbursement or return. In economic terms, it means exchange between employer and employees for the task performed by the latter. The employer has the liberty to pay reward or compensation to its employees in financial as well as non-financial form in any proportion as mutually arranged between the employer and the employee. In a narrow sense, compensation is the amount paid by the employer to the employee for the services rendered by him. Thus, the economic aspect of compensation is actually most important, for which theories have been propounded by various thinkers. We will discuss these theories one by one. Labor market theory suggests that compensation, like any other price, is determined by the forces of demand and supply. The employer has to understand his requirement related to number and types of employees at a particular compensation level. The employer will continue engaging a special type of employee till the compensation is equal to the marginal productivity. Employees, on the other hand, will be available for employment till some other recruiter has something better to offer to him or till he is able to justify his contentment level in the same job. Subsistence theory, or the iron law of wages, postulates that labor is compensated for the work done by them so that they can survive. The theory also assumes that if compensation increases beyond the survival level, the employee will enhance his family by reproducing more, as now he would be able to support a larger family. As the number of individuals to be employed increases, that is, supply of labor increases, with a specified amount of employment available, compensation would decline. If compensation fall below survival levels, employees and their family would die of malnutrition, hunger, etc. Resultantly, supply of labor will decrease and compensation level will increase. The theory concludes that in the long run, compensation tends to be minimum. Wage fund theory proposed that the compensation is paid out of a fund that is created to house the surplus wealth with employer or the capitalist, which is a result of his retained earnings. This surplus wealth is used to engage employees to perform different tasks. In case of large funds, compensation will be high as more funds would be available for disbursement, and if funds are less, then the compensation just enough for survival would be paid. Surplus value theory. In this theory, the labor is treated as commodity that is purchased on payment of a price. Although, while determining the price of any product, labor cost is significantly considered, but the labor is paid very less as compared to the time spent by them in manufacturing of a product. The surplus thus goes to surplus fund. Under residual claimant theory, it identifies four factors of production. These factors are land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship. The amount of residual value after payment to all factors except labor is called compensation. This also implies that all factors of production are important except labor. That is why labor is the residual claimant. Marginal productivity theory states that compensation is the estimate made by the entrepreneur about the value created by the marginal employee. Therefore, this theory also suggests that compensation depends upon demand and supply of the workforce. Bargaining theory states that compensation is totally dependent on the bargaining power of employees, trade unions and employer. If the trade union is stronger, then the employer compensation will tend to be higher, and if employer is powerful and well established, the compensation will be low. Hence, the compensation depends on the bargaining capacities of the parties involved. The limitation with these economic theories is that they assume labor market to be perfectly competitive and employees are absolutely free to move in and out of the markets. This practically seems to be almost impossible. Economic theories are based on the most primitive format of compensation and its management. Here, it is assumed that an individual is well aware about all his self-interest being fulfilled. These theories are criticized on the following grounds. A. The economic theories of compensation management are away from reality as they assume free entry and exit of employees, which is practically impossible. Secondly, economic theories assume completely competitive labor market where uniform compensation is practiced, which again is a myth. Huge variances exist in the compensation across regions, industry and even at individual employee levels. Compensation is something that is largely influenced by human behavior. For the organization, the contribution of the employee is important for the attainment of its goals and objectives in support of its vision and mission. For an employee, compensation affects his motivation, commitment and performance. These intangible and measurable aspects pose a threat to the economic theories. These human traits significantly impact the employer as well as employee's perception toward compensation. Behavioral theories conceptualize compensation as a tool to create and imbibe emotions in an employee, suggesting that the job is too good to be lost. The major behavioral theories put forwarded by various experts can be summarized as acceptance of compensation. The general image and name of the organization and amount of compensation are two significant factors that govern the employee's intention to work in that organization. Although the compensation is directly proportional to the contribution made by the employee towards organizational goals. So, compensation apart from just providing livelihood is the major reason of continuance or discontinuance from the organization. Organizations have to actually make sure that the employees are contented in terms of all financial as well as non-financial rewards. This is a vicious circle. As soon as the satisfaction level of employee lowers, he searches for new alternatives with high rewards. As per the general human tendency, for a short span of time, individual is satisfied, but gradually his aspirations touch new heights and gain his satisfaction level lowers. Hence, compensation level acceptance is very important to sustain the employee. Internal compensation structure of an organization is dependent on multiple factors, many of which are not economic in nature. These include psychology of the management, social recognition associated with the job, social norms and customs prevalent in a particular society, the intention of maintaining consistency in compensation, the span of control, and the requirement of specialized labor. This theory thus tries to emphasize that compensation is internally created and managed concept that affects a whole lot of other factors. The tournament theory emphasizes on the hierarchy of the organization. The theory assumes life of the organization as a sports match, for example, a golf tournament. Each round in the tournament denotes a struggle for a higher job level. All participants are ranked on the basis of their performance. The winners will proceed to the next round. For the employer, judging becomes relatively easy by making a comparison in performances. The four main features of the tournament theory are: compensation slots are well defined in advance. Promotions are awarded to employees not because they are good, but because they performed better than the others. The level of effort of an employee is normally directly proportional to the benefit he assumes to gain, and the participants are known in advance and no outsider are allowed to be a part of the tournament. The reward that is received is not only direct compensation increase, but also includes prospective rewards of being a part of tournament in future. The tournament theory thus helps an organization to limit the labor turnover and distinguishes good performance from the poor ones. Wage and motivators. Compensation as a layman can be understood as the amount of money an individual earns from his job. Compensation is thus an instrument to fulfill one's needs. But actually, every individual has some expectation, aspirations from his life. These aspirations motivate him to enhance his compensation and hence his earnings. These behavioral aspects of one's personality needs increments, bonuses, commissions, etc. to motivate him. Compensation differentials are a common feature. Employees with similar skill sets and efficiency levels, if hired in a perfect market, would receive identical compensation in equilibrium. But what actually exists is imperfect competition. So, the compensation differentials largely exist on account of inter and intra-industry differences. Compensation within the industry is varied just as across industries. Let's discuss reasons for compensation differentials within the industry that may be due to nature of industry. The nature of industry is an important characteristic to decide the compensation. By nature of industry, we mean the business processes, technology deployed, skill sets required, and most importantly, the customer requirements. Again, for a manufacturing firm, the skills competencies required will differ from that of a service firm, and so the compensation plan will also be different. Technology. Some industries are highly technical and automated in their business processes, while others are not so organized with high level of automation. Although they need less number of employees, but they have to be well qualified, trained, skilled, creative, and therefore their compensation are high. Competencies, skill sets. Competencies are developed gradually as per the job requirement. Sometimes new skills have to be brought in the organization at a high premium, and at other times internally premium, and at other times internally a skill set may be developed. So again, varied competencies, skills demand different compensation plans to be implemented. For example, an operator in an IT firm will most likely to be an engineer, and so his compensation will be handsome, whereas in a call center he will be a school pass out. Hence, compensation is differential. Industry could be functioning in an organized sector or an unorganized one. In the unorganized sector, like that of candle making or utensil making, orders are erratic, technology is poor, margins are low, and compensation are low. On the other hand, in organized sector like that of television making, where technology is latest, capital base infrastructure is excellent, compensation will definitely be good. Thus, sector is also responsible for compensation differentials. Organizations implement differentiation strategy and maintain higher compensation levels or an average. Others like textiles, spare parts, etc., who employ large chunks of seasonal, temporary employees and force lower compensation levels. Business environment. The business environment turbulence brings in a lot of compensation differentials across organizations. Compensation decisions are highly influenced by local turbulences, hence creating disparities. Also, quality of workforce. While discussing quality of workforce in today's times, we will discuss about two aspects. One is the academic and technical qualifications which are desired to enter the workforce and acquire a decent compensation. Secondly, the skills or qualities desired to sustain in that particular work. So, differentials must in terms of both the aspects. A well qualified individual may enter the workforce at a particular compensation and may stay for long at the same level, whereas a little low qualification but with huge learning and grasping power may be able to climb the ladder of compensation plan fast. Designing compensation is the most difficult and crucial part of compensation structure decision making. The steps involved in designing a compensation structure are as follows. Determination of worth of jobs to organization. After establishing a compensation philosophy which determines external compensation relatively based on job evaluation, relative worth of each job is identified and compensation levels are fixed for each job based on the requirement of that job. A detailed compensation structure is set up in which remuneration is organized by detailing different grades and minimum and maximum compensation rates for each of these grades. Employees should be paid according to the relative worth of a job. In other words, jobs which are of higher value are paid more as compared to the jobs which are of lower value. Internal compensation relatively is determined through job evaluation. Different methods of job evaluation can be used to determine the relative worth of a job to an organization. Positions should be placed in a structure and level. These levels and structures could be set according to the following criteria. The criteria is interpersonal skills, problem solving ability, accountability, managerial capabilities, academic and professional qualifications, and exposure in the specific industry. Determination of worth of jobs in the marketplace. The next step is the determination of compensation rates of the competitors. While fixing the compensation levels in the organization, a lot of things need to be considered like compensation surveys, internet data, competitor benchmarking, and labor market trends. The compensation survey is conducted using jobs which are similar across different organizations. These are called benchmark positions. For example, engineers, electrician, accountant, etc., the organization has to decide its compensation philosophy within the entire spectrum of compensation rates. Organizations who want to hire best talent would have to compensate levels found through the compensation surveys. Whereas, if the organization is interested in average people, then a more middle of the road compensation philosophy might be adopted. Organizations design different compensation structures on the basis of philosophy and policy. For example, some organizations have a broader compensation structures as compared to others. While determining the compensation structure, an organization should take into consideration the total cost of structural implementation. Compensation surveys are conducted every year to estimate the amount by which other organizations will increase their range or compensation rates. For example, people who possess technical skills are often paid at a higher rate because demand for these people is more than their supply. In order to summarize the discussion, the theoretical aspect of compensation management suggests the major theories working around compensation and its management. Compensation is the most crucial feature of organized working culture, and so numerous economists, sociologists, and industrial psychologists have worked tremendously on the development and structuring of the same. The dictionary meaning of compensation is simply reward or reimbursement or return. In economic terms, it means exchange between employer and employees for the task performed by the latter. The employer has the liberty to pay reward or compensation to its employees in financial as well as non-financial form in any proportion as mutually arranged between the employer and the employee. In a narrow sense, compensation is the amount paid by employer to the employee for the services rendered by him for production of goods and services. Thus, the economic aspect of compensation is actually most important, for which various economic theories have been developed. Compensation is something that is largely influenced by human behavior. For the organization, the contribution of the employee is important for the attainment of its goals and objectives in support of its vision and mission. For an employee, compensation affects his motivation, commitment, and performance. These intangible, immeasurable aspects pose a threat to economic theories. These human traits significantly impact the employer as well as employees' perception toward compensation. Behavioral theories conceptualize compensation as a tool to create and imbibe emotions in an employee, suggesting him that the job is too good to be lost. Both types of compensation theories had their own advantages and disadvantages. So, it actually depends on the situation that which theory of compensation management would be applicable where. A judicious adoption to be executed by the management of the organization before selecting for any compensation theory. Happy learning!